to this workshop. Remember that now we call them webinars since they're online. Yeah, and we will be focusing on modernizing the Ethiopian banking industry with KYC compliance and unified profiles. Just by way of introduction, my name is Regis Olivier Rutaguera. I work with Mint, and I'm responsible for delivery of technical services in continental Africa. With me here, we have a team from Mint and a team from Microsoft who will be presenting to you. And I'd like to do that quick run of introduction of our Mint team that we have here, then the Microsoft team, and then we can proceed with the deliberations for the webinar. Dennis, may I start with you, sir?
Yes, please, you may do so. Just switch on my camera for a while. Yeah, I'm Dennis Lupambo. I look after the business we do across Africa. Thank you.
Awesome. Claire?
Good day, everybody. My name's Claire. I was the person who was sending you lots of emails to attend today. I'm part of the Mint's marketing team, so welcome and enjoy today's session.
Thank you so much. Richard?
Hi, everybody. I'm Richard, and I'm a digital transformation specialist. Thank you.
Awesome. Sally?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sally Mayana, and I am a customer insight specialist at Mint.
Thank you so much. I hope I've not left anyone from Mint because I'm on a presentation mode. So I'd like to pass on the mic to our colleagues from Microsoft, Stella and Zena. So let me start with Zena, then we can go to Stella and kick off. Hi, Zena.
Hi, Regis. I think it's Otilia you are meaning, if I have that right, which is okay.
Yes, please go ahead, Otilia. Right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's all right. Otilia Piri, I'm Principal Corporate Counsel at Microsoft, supporting the business in the continent based out of Nairobi in Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Otilia. Stella?
I think Zena is actually on the call. Zena, are you going to unmute? I see her as well. Zena? Okay, maybe not. So I'll go next. My name is Stella Nyaga. I work in Microsoft. My official title is Partner Development Manager, supporting specifically the workload that provides these outcomes, the KYC compliance and the unified profiles. That sits in a workload called business applications. And I support that business through our partners for the full continent of Africa. I'm really happy to be here, so thank you. Do you want me to do the rest?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. I saw this person who doesn't look like me with my name on it. I got a bit confused. So from Microsoft, I must start with our objective as an organization is to enable every person and every organization to achieve more. And in the business applications domain, our biggest focus is to look at actual businesses and connect how the technology can impact an organization sort of directly. It's not there's no ambiguous way to do this. If you do your financials right, your numbers are going to be good. If you handle your customers correctly, your customers are going to stay with you and they're going to grow their spend with you. So it's very exciting that we have a chance to have this conversation with you today. I only want to leave two things because I'm not the one who's got the juicy stories today. There's other people, our partners Mint have that. But from Microsoft, I want to make an endorsement and say from a customer engagement workload perspective, the Mint team on this call are at the very peak of our partners in Africa. And the way we work in Microsoft is we ensure that we're building the continent, not just landing licenses. And by that, it means even if we're landing the licenses from our side, the deployment, the support, the services, all that is done by partners in Africa. Mint is a partner who works Pan-African. They are supporting the biggest banks we've got on the continent. And we are hoping that we can be able to deliver the same value and the same impact for Ethiopia through these sessions. We will continue to be available to support you from a Microsoft perspective. Every time you see Mint, rest assured that Microsoft is right behind them, because that's how we deliver, because we're looking to grow the continent. So please rest assured that Microsoft is always with you and always with them. If you have any questions, the team are happy I'm happy to engage with you directly and have the correct team support you. But the expertise. So we build a platform as Microsoft. We build a platform, and our partners then take that platform and build on top of it, create industry specialization on top of it, create specific regulatory requirement on top of it. And all that capability is done. We cannot do it centrally as Microsoft because we are serving the full world, right? But in every market, the localization, the making it relevant for your market and ensuring that it works the way that your regulators and your customers want the technology to work, that piece is left for our partners to do. So please, I hope that today's session will be of value to you. We are here. We're excited to be working with you guys in Ethiopia, and we look forward to many, many more beneficial engagements. Thank you so much.
Awesome, Stella. Thank you so much for that great introduction. So this is the agenda for our deliberations for today. We've had our welcome from Stella, and I'm going to do the overview of what we understand of the Ethiopian market. Passing on to that, we'll pass on to Ottilia from Microsoft to give us the Microsoft rundown of the recently announced data protection proclamation in Ethiopia. Colleague Dennis is going to come through and provide a solution overview. Then Sally will support us with a quick demo of the solution that we want to show you in this webinar. We will then move on to have a brief panel discussion, not very long, just about 3 questions with some of our customers on the continent and partners in Ethiopia, and close off with a Q&A session where those who have questions, I believe, will be able to ask the questions and will provide the answers. So where are we coming from? As Stella said, we have had the privilege to work with some of the biggest banks on the continent and across various markets: Nigeria, Zambia, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and South Africa, of course, where we come from. So what we've seen, of course, is that localization proves successful in any digital transformation agenda. And localization is not just a matter of configuring technology to understand Kiswahili if you are in Kenya, but it goes more into understanding the landscape or the environment in which our customers operate and try to make sure that the solution we build is fit for that purpose, because our customers can only be successful in the environments within which they operate if they are compliant, they are innovative, and also able to optimize their operations. So what we know about Ethiopia, of course, we know that you have over 25 banks. I think what I saw last was at 28, 28 as at 2023, and a lot of MFIs. Some of the key trends that we are seeing in the market also include a push for digital transformation. A lot of banks are now implementing digital channels to deliver services, especially to the previously financially excluded sections of the Ethiopian society. We're also seeing a lot of regulatory changes, especially around data protection, as I said earlier, KYC and anti-money laundering policies, and of course, the big conversation around the potential for liberalization of the financial services industry. We're also seeing a lot of conversations going on around service expansion, shifting more focus on the SMEs and having more customer-focused kind of products. And what all this really means is that the bank of the future in Ethiopia, for it to succeed, there are 4 key things that it needs to achieve. One, obviously, you will need to find a way of optimizing your operations and costs as competition increases. You will also need to have innovative ways, or to be innovative, which means essentially you have to start creating more customer-centric products. You have to start providing unique customer experience every time you handle a customer, and of course, be regulatory compliant. So all the government regulations or the industry regulations that are coming, as well as standards, the successful bank of tomorrow will have no choice but to be compliant. And then last but not the least, you will also have to improve the experience of your employees, because these are the people that represent the brand. They are at the front door of the brand. So you'll have to help them with the tools and skills they need to do the best that they can do. With that bit of our understanding of the Ethiopian landscape, I'd like to pass on to Ottilia to just run us down through the new data protection proclamation.
Thank you, Regis. Should I switch to presenter on this end?
Yes, please.
All right. Let me just put this in action mode. Let me know when you can see.
We can see your screen.
Super. Okay. So I'll just quickly share today our understanding of the new data protection proclamation that has come out in Ethiopia. I think this is very welcome news. For us, we've seen many countries across the continent adopt data protection frameworks, and we believe this is a great way of giving guidance around how data should be collected, processed, managed, stored, and also ensuring that the rights of data subjects are protected through all of this. And so this is a very welcome a development. We believe that it helps to enhance the privacy rights for individuals, that it also creates an increased duty for companies that collect and process information around how they need to protect such information. It also then includes requirements around reporting when there is breaches that have occurred. As you will have seen in recent years, we are seeing an exponential increase in cyber-related attacks, and so there's some reporting obligations that come with that as well. And there's obviously an expectation then that there would be penalties for non-compliance with the regulation, which I think then creates makes sure that this is something that is prioritized by the people who are collecting, processing personal information. So what exactly is covered under the regulation? What sorts of data sets is it intending to protect for? And I think this is something that's key, because often we have conversations sometimes where it's not clear if it's just information that relates to the person or the individual, or if it relates to corporate related information or information that your business might otherwise process in the normal course of your business. That sort of data is not covered under this Act. The Act it speaks particularly to personal data and how it defines that as information that could help you to identify a natural person. either directly or indirectly. And so there are different types of identifiers that can help you identify someone. It could be their name, it could be their identification details, their ID, passport, birth certificate, those sort of identification information. It could be location data. If you think about our GPS enabled devices nowadays, that they have the ability to locate where you are. So that location data is something that can be that can identify back to an individual, and so that's also included. Online identifiers as well, and many other categories of data that could help you to identify an individual are included. I think it's also important to note that there's a broad definition of personal data and the type of data that's protected under the regulation. But then there's a distinction that's also made with regards to what is considered then sensitive data. And I think the reason here for the distinction is often because the risk is different, right? For general personal data, things like my name, for example, I think of the number of social media sites that I'm on, I imagine that it's quite low risk if my name were to be disclosed to third parties, because to be fair, it's already in the public domain. But there's certain categories of data that are quite sensitive that I typically would not share in public domains, that I would typically only share likely on a need to know basis, or if it's required as a part of a service that I'm getting or an engagement that I'm doing. And those are things like your race and ethnicity, genetic or biometric data, data around physical and mental health data more generally, information around political opinions, membership in trade unions, and other such information. So those are considered sensitive categories of data. And the reason why this is distinguished is because then there's additional controls around how you can then collect or process such sensitive data. So what are the key principles that we're seeing coming out of the regulation? I think the first I've mentioned already is around the right to privacy. And at the core, what this means is that the individuals have the right to not have their details about their personal life, choices, etc., exposed in a way that would be detrimental to them. In some countries, it is also a constitutional right to privacy. On an international level as well, this is an international human right. And so this is just in some ways giving practical mechanisms around how you can protect that. And so there's detail that is included within the Act around this right to privacy. The other is around lawfulness, and this is the idea that personal information or personal data should be collected or processed only through lawful means. And you can think about it in different instances, right? There is instances where you have a contractual engagement with someone. That could be a mechanism through which you would be able to collect data lawfully. There are instances where it is a regulatory requirement for you to collect certain data. I think of it particularly for financial institutions, for example, who there's certain KYC data that you have to collect as a part of the due diligence you need to do as a bank in how you run your operations. And so that's that principle of lawfulness, which comes out in the proclamation. There's also the principle around collection and or processing of data where it's necessary for compliance with the legal obligation. I think that KYC was probably a great example of that. I think it might also be considered, for example, for any employer. When you are taking on new employees, there's probably certain categories of data that you need to be able to collect for you, either for payroll purposes, but also it might be so that you then provide for the taxation of individuals through payee or otherwise that's needed. And so it may be necessary for you to collect certain financial information of your employees to be able to do that. The other principle that comes out in the proclamation is the idea of consent. And this is the idea that a data subject or the individual whose data is being collected or processed in certain instances must have provided consent for such information to be collected. And there's discussions often around how this consent needs to, as in what sort of consent is considered sufficient, right? We all would be familiar, for example, with some services that we use online that would have an opt-in button that says, do you allow, as in, you're consenting to us collecting XYZ information and that we might use it for XYZ. Are those sort of click through buttons, is that sufficient? Is it when you put in the terms of a contract that you have with, for example, if you're a bank and you have the terms of service or the terms and conditions of which your customers engage with you, if you include language in there around what sort of information you collect for them and how you would process that information, who you might share with it, is that then sufficient consent? And that typically is. The other principle that comes out is the idea of collection or processing of data for legitimate interests. And I think of this, for example, in the context of if you are a bank, you are going to loan someone some money, there's probably certain levels of information you need for them to share as a part of your due diligence so that you can do some sort of risk modeling and be able to say, this is the level of the loan that we can give you. And so there are legitimate interests in which you are trying to protect in that instance. And I think the other way you could also think about it is legitimate interests for the protection of an individual's rights, right? For example, the police arrive at a crime scene and someone, but actually maybe not make it too it's scary. Let's just say they arrive at a scene of an accident, right? There's been an accident. There's certain information that they would need to collect about those individuals who've been involved in that accident for them to be able to protect the rights and to ensure that justice is served in whatever has happened there. So that's really what that that construct of legitimate interests, what that means. And then the other principle, and I'll kind of go a little bit deeper into this, is around transferring of data outside of Ethiopia and the instances where this is permissible or not. And I thought I'd spend some time here because this is often where we spend a lot of time speaking to folk, as they have a lot of questions around what is permissible. Is it possible for me to have my data transferred and stored in another country? And the good thing is that the regulation provides for clear conditions of when cross-border data transfer is allowed. It's where they believe that there is adequacy, so that think of it in the sense that the country that is being transferred to has similar regulations that protect data as the country, as Ethiopia, for example, right? So think about it like I think we've seen, for example, in Europe, when they issued their GDPR, they also had similar language around this and have been issuing guidance to say this country we believe has adequacy. And I believe they've quite recently, in this past week, the EU has been engaged with African data protection regulators, and they are now speaking through what would be considered adequacy for African countries, which is great to hear that they're taking this move. The other is consent, and think about it. We spoke about the principle of consent before. So this is if you have communicated to the data subject that you're collecting and processing their data and that you would likely transfer it and where you would transfer it to so that they can understand that such data is moving out of the country and they consent to it clearly. When transfer is necessary, I think of this in the financial space as if you think about how the international SWIFT system is like, and how our payment systems are currently structured. I think of my own engagement with my bank. I imagine for them to be able to provide me services as as a global citizen. I'm originally from Zimbabwe. I'm living currently in Kenya. I have family who live across different countries, and as I move across those different countries, I need to be able to access my banking services, which means inherently information around my financial transactions is crossing across different countries for them to be able to provision those services to me. And so that's an example of sometimes when it is a necessity to process data across borders. And then the last is if there's if there is a register which that would be developed so that to be able to provide certain information that is required for the public, then that would also be possible. And I imagine that this is typically a government-initiated sort of transfer in that instance. The one thing I would point out as I wind down is while we have this great provision on cross-border data transfers, I think one of the concerns that in the proclamation is that it also makes a reference to the need to protect the sovereignty of the country, something we see many other African countries take this approach as well. But it doesn't really clarify what sort of data is considered, is sovereign in that sense, and then would thus have different requirements, and in particular would need to be to remain locally in country in Ethiopia. And so that is one area where we will continue to look to see how the regulations on that will develop. And maybe just very quickly in 1 minute, I'll just try and support what are the key changes that entities can take to help address this proclamation, and what are some of the steps, for example, that Microsoft can and our partners like Mint can support. I think the one is just being sure that when you're collecting or processing information, that you have clear policies that protect the rights of individuals, for them to know that why the information is being collected or processed, for them to be able to access it, to change it, correct it, and for them to object to processing of certain kinds if they don't consent otherwise. Also, there is a need to get the right sorts of technologies to help you manage these processes, right? It isn't for you to be able to have transparency in around how you're collecting or processing data. There are some tools as well that you might be able to leverage to be able to do this. And then because there would be compliance requirements or audit requirements, you also then would need to be able to develop reports that you can then show to the regulators to say, this is how we're complying. And so that's another opportunity in which Microsoft and our partners like Mint are able to support. And I will stop there for today and pass on back to Regis. Thank you.
Thanks, Ottilia, for breaking this one down for us. I'm sure it's of key interest to a lot of our participants today. So we will probably have an opportunity to ask questions at the Q&A section of this webinar. If you get responses from your side and everyone else, I know that you've done quite a lot of this and you'll be able to give them insights that they need. So moving on to the next agenda item, we will invite Dennis to come through and run us through the overview of the solution we have to present as Mint and Microsoft. Essentially, this is a solution that should help you remain compliant with your data protection proclamation, but also address a number of those issues I mentioned in the introduction when I was talking about the current landscape that we are seeing in the Ethiopian banking and financial services industry. Thank you. Dennis, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Regis. Could you please move the deck to, it's in the same deck that you're presenting. If you can just go to my section.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll start here.
Yes.
That's right, yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. And no offense to regulation, but if you're still awake, I think you should find this exciting. What the solution we have to present to you today is Microsoft Dynamics 365 Customer Insights Data. And as you can see, the name is very long, and Microsoft has come up with an abbreviation. which we often use. So you often hear us refer to the solution as CID, which is simply the abbreviation of this solution. So what is CID? CID is a customer data platform. There are a number of such solutions you can get from different OEMs, but with Microsoft, you are getting best of breed, especially with their leadership with artificial intelligence. A customer data platform simply is an application that allows you to bring customer data from different customer data systems, source systems. So in banking, and I spent 11 years in banking, by the way, 7 years with Standard Bank South Africa, and 4 years with EcoBank Transnational. So I'm very familiar with the problems of customer data in a bank, and what we always struggled with in banking, and I'm sure you do as well, is getting all the data for a particular customer from all the different systems that host that data. That's what this application has really been designed to do, is to help you bring all the customer data into one application platform. I think the name is so appropriate, CDP. If there's one thing you remember, just remember the customer data platform. That's what CID is. It brings data from different systems, leverages a lot of artificial intelligence, which Microsoft is a leader in. And using artificial intelligence, we're able to do a number of things. One, the most important part of regulation as well, is unifying the customer profiles. What do we mean by that? We mean if you have a customer with a number of products, which is often the case in a bank, most banks count that customer a number of times. They don't count them as one customer because often the count is based on the products. So what we do is, using the power of artificial intelligence, is bring all the products that you have as a customer and channels that you use, everything you do with the bank, under one profile, so that we only have one profile of each customer. That unification is the basis of everything that you do beyond that. Because if you get that wrong, then you can't be confident that you are dealing with your customers as individuals. There's a term that is common nowadays. You hear personalization. Personalization is simply saying you are confident not only that you know the name, starting off with the name, obviously, you need to know your customer's name with confidence so that you can address them by their name. But beyond that, it's basically saying you know everything they do with you through the information that is available with you as a bank. That is what some people often call customer 360. So you have that. So with unification, we will have achieved the regulation part of this drive. But for me, what is exciting is that using the same solution, you can not only comply with regulation, but also achieve a very significant business case. And the business case I want to talk about is the ability to upsell and cross-sell across your customer base. So basically what we do is we leverage the power of this application to profile each one of your products, as well as each one of your channels, to say who are the ideal customers for that product or that channel. That group of customers is a segment, and that segment can be used for marketing purposes of that particular product or particular channel. And that's how you basically achieve cross-sell and upsell. And I'll talk about that in another slide. The last part of customer insights data that is very exciting is that Microsoft has already created a number of predictive models using machine learning. These are industry-wide, especially in banking, very, very relevant. So what are they? One of them is predicting customer churn. In other words, predicting which customer is about to leave you. The second one is predicting which product to sell to the customer. We call it product recommendation. And then the last one is predicting the customer lifetime value. Customer lifetime value is simply predicting what value in terms of interest income and fee income you're going to earn from each individual customer. You can do the prediction for a particular period, could be 1 year, 2 years into the future, and then you can segment your customers based on the predicted value that they're going to give you. So that's another very exciting model. Regis, if you can go to the next slide. So this slide is a simplification of how the application works. Please bear in mind, as you probably know, technology is quite complex, and what we try and do when we are explaining different applications to customers is obviously simplify them. So please don't treat this as the detailed depiction of this application. But anyway, let's go through what it does, which I talked to before. The first part is to look at where your customer data resides. So in a bank, typically, where do we find customer data? We find it in a CRM system. We certainly find it in a core banking system, because every bank has to have a core banking system. Some banks have data warehouses. Why? Because they've attempted to manipulate or report on data, so they create their own data warehouse or houses. So that's another source of customer data. You have account origination systems, where you onboard your customers. So sometimes those systems host customer data. Loans are obviously a very big part of what a bank does. And often you have different loan systems. You might have a mortgage system, you might have a car loan system, and so on and so forth. And those systems will have customer data. AML, anti-money laundering system, fraud detection, risk management, and so on and so forth. So there are a number of systems and channels, I didn't even put channels there, channels, internet banking, USSD, SMS, whatever, might also have customer data that is not available to other systems. So remember, as I said, the first thing you should always not forget is this is a customer data platform. So it brings customer data from all these different systems into one platform. How do we achieve that? Microsoft uses connectors, pre-built connectors, to connect to a lake, a data lake. At the moment, Microsoft uses Azure Synapse Analytics as the data lake, but that's basically a staging area where you bring all your customer data into one place and then ingest it into this application. That ingest simply means, bring it into the application such that, remember, these are almost integrations, so that if data changes in the core system, in the line of business system, the ones shown on the left-hand side, those changes are depicted in the application. It's not real time, but it's configurable. If you want to configure that the change reflects every 6 hours or whatever, you can do that. Microsoft allows you to configure the synchronization time. So you bring it into one application, and then you start doing the unification. So the unification is a process. It goes through a number of processes, but the key ones that we like to talk about is map, match, and merge. Merge, as you can imagine, is simply saying bring everything together. That's when you create the unique profile of the customer. Once you've created the unique customer profile, you can also enrich it with different data sources that you might have access to. It's up to you. So then beyond that, what's really powerful about this application is that I talked about 3 predictive models with machine learning that Microsoft gives you out of the box. Microsoft also enables you to connect your own custom predictive model that you've created for whatever use case to this application. Again, why do you want to do that? Because you want to have all customer data in one place and making sure that when you look at each individual customer profile, you can see everything. So you don't want a predictive model, let's say on fraud or on credit score, existing in isolation. You want it to be connected to this application so that when you look at a customer profile, you can see everything. So beyond that, Microsoft has a number of tools to help you visualize. You can use Power BI, and you can use Power Apps to now take this information or this data to other systems that you have in your environment. What I want to leave you with is the Microsoft platform end-to-end has everything you need to manage not only regulation, but to enable what is cross-selling and upselling using this application. If we can go to the next slide. Yeah, the next slide basically talks to the key agenda, which is the unifying of customer profiles, which we've talked about. What are the benefits? You get a holistic view of customers. You unlock insights because you have, you can see the customer 360, as we say. You can do a lot of things that address each individual customer needs. So you start dealing with customers as individuals, and that's what is often referred to as personalized. So even if you have millions of customers using this technology, you are able to look at each customer as if they're your friend, as if you know them one-on-one. It also, the beauty of the solution that Microsoft provides is, I did talk about adaptation and the ability to extend, where you can use other tools within the Microsoft platform to connect to your existing systems and also do anything else that you want. So it's not one of those solutions that you create and it becomes a restriction. And then lastly, you are leveraging the security and data protection that was talked about in regulation that Microsoft has as best practice across the world. In particular, Microsoft complies with key regulations such as GDPR in the European Union, which often is the basis of our regulation across Africa. Can we go to the next one? Yeah, commonly asked questions, I'm sure you ask this, where's your customer data? The answer is, once you have implemented this customer data platform, all your customer data will be in one place. You don't have to ask different departments within the bank to get your data. We talked about customer lifetime value, which is a prediction that you can get out of the box that allows you to know or to segment your customers in terms of the value they give you. You've got high value, medium value, low value, and you can treat them accordingly. And then lastly, we talked about customer churn as a prediction that comes out of the box in this application. It answers the question of which customers are at risk of leaving you. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, there was a slide on cross-selling and upselling that I don't see, but maybe I'll present from my side if that's okay, because it's
right ahead.
Yeah, because it's very, very important, and quite frankly, something I'm passionate about. So tell me if you can see my screen.
We see it.
Okay, brilliant. So the business case now, you've used this application to comply. You've unified your customer profiles and met the regulatory compliance. Now, what else can you do? I talked about you can now use this application, especially for cross-selling and upselling products and channels. And this, by the way, is not theory. This is what we're doing for one of the biggest banks in Nigeria. We've actually gotten approval to go live, and we're already doing this for them. So what is the first starting point? You identify ideal customers for each product and channel. What I love about the process I'm going to describe to you is that you do the work once, but you use many times. So you look at each of your product or channel and you ask the question, which customers is this product created for? Or which customers is this channel created for? Once you get the customers that the criteria for the ideal customer, you then search your entire customer base to find those customers. That's what we call creating a segment, simply a segment of ideal customers for each product and channel. Now, remember, as I said to you, the beautiful thing about this application is that it's dynamic, it's not static. In other words, it's synchronizing with the line of business systems, let's say every 6 hours or every 24 hours, however you've configured it. So your data is changing all the time. And you are able to create a segment at a particular time and run a campaign to those customers to sell the product or channel to them. You are also able to use that same information when you service the customer. So when the customer calls in and they've got a problem on their debit card or whatever, you can then say to them, oh, by the way, do you know you qualify for a mortgage? Or do you know you qualify for this loan, or you can get a credit card? Because you've already done the work and you are giving the customer service agent that information on the same screen they use to service the customer. Most important of all, once you've run the campaign and you've got customers who opt in, who say, yes, they're interested in this product or channel, what do? You use the Microsoft platform through an application we call Sales to route the leads to relationship managers. In other words, to the people that manage each customer, so that those people can follow up on those leads and make sure they close the deal or open the accounts. Lastly, as I said, that's a beautiful part of it from my perspective. You can repeat this process at regular intervals. So you can run this process every 2-3 months because data is changing. customers you marketed to, 3 months ago have probably, bought the product. So the new customers will qualify, and you've basically set up a trap that gives you the ability to continuously cross-sell and upsell products and channels to your customer base. So that's the end of my presentation. I think we'll go into a demo. Over to you, Regis. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Dennis. So what I'll go ahead and do is share a quick demo of just a few of the features that we have in Customer Insights. Please let me know when you can see my screen, and I'll go ahead and get started.
Still loading.
Can you see my screen?
It's not visible at the moment. Still blank.
Okay. Dennis, can I ask that you share that slide again? The video should be on the next slide.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I think I just need to stop sharing to get out of presentation mode, and then I'll present your screen. Okay, I think you can see my screen. I'm going into presentation mode, and I should be able to play the video. Sorry, I think it's stuck. Let me go to the slide itself and then present.
Regis, while we get the slide to work, there is a question that we've had. I don't know if you maybe want to take this opportunity to answer a quick question.
Yes, sure. Let's take a look at it while we wait for that. Thank you.
Okay, great. So there's a question that's coming from Safese. He asked, what is the difference between the system and CBS versus AML and other systems like MIS?
I can answer that.
Okay,
the difference is the customer data platform gets data from all those systems. CBS is a core banking system. AML is simply anti-money laundering system that contains customer data and any others. So it's back to the slide that I showed. Sorry, if I can do stop sharing, and I can go back and present again that slide. Just give me a minute. I think you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Sorry. For some reason, it's going to the wrong slide. I just wanted to go to that. Okay. Can't do that. If that's the slide, I think I'll show it like that. So the difference is the Customer Insights data platform, is the one in the middle. So all these systems, core banking system, which is CBS, anti-money laundering, all of them are source systems. Those are systems that you take data from, customer data. So all customer data available in all these different systems on the left-hand side get ingested into one platform. That's the answer to the question.
Thanks, Dennis.
No problem. Let me see if I can now go to the demo. Just give me a minute. Just gonna scroll down. The demo is over here. And I think if I go into speaker mode,
Hi, Dennis. We can't hear the volume.
I wonder why. How do you make it?
Or should I just do the raw demo? I have it open here.
Yes.
Okay, so let me go to the raw demo. So I'm going to share my screen now, take over.
Please go ahead.
Let's go through the system. Okay, please let me know when you can see my screen.
We can see your screen.
Yes, we can, Richard.
Okay, perfect. So this is the renowned platform which we've been talking about, the customer insights data. And as you can see, we start from our left side. The left side is all the menus which you use to interrogate your data. And on the right is where we have Copilot embedded into it. And as we all know, Copilot is using AI, the power of AI, GPT-4, to be able to query your data. You can ask any kind of questions to interrogate your data. So now let's get to the juicy part. So the first part is for us connecting to the line of business system. So let's say, for example, we're connecting to one of the banks and there's a staging area. Customer Insights gives us the ability to connect either into a data lake, all these Microsoft products where you can store your data, which is secure, which gives you all the goodies in the data, in data protection, access control, and all that. And then we can use our Power Query to connect. And with Power Query, we have close to 400 connectors. I can just show you how Power Query looks like so that you have an overview of what Power Query does and how it does its connection. So when Power Query loads, it shows you different connectors. You can connect to your Sybase, you can connect to Excel. As you can see, these are samples. We have a lot of connectors that you can connect to. And we can also even make custom connectors to connect to your database and bring in the data. So from your data source, you connect to, we connect to the data source and we ingest the data. Then he's talked about ingesting data. So ingestion is a fancy way of saying copying. So we are copying in the data into the system. And what you need to know is when copying data, your data is always protected at all forms, which is if it's at rest, it's protected. If it's in transit, it's protected using Microsoft transparent data encryption. So that keeps your data safe, and it all deals with permission. Anybody that does not have permission cannot come view this data. So immediately the data is ingested into the system. The next part we come into is the unification process. This is where Dennis spoke about the mapping, the matching, and the merging. So when we bring in the data, the first thing we need to do with the data is to map it with the data in the Dataverse. So Microsoft has a very secure database, which is called the Dataverse. And they've thought about all kind of industries and all kind of data that is used. And when you bring in your data, AI automatically does the mapping. Like an example, as we can see here, this is an account number. It maps it into a type of account. An address, it maps it into an address. So it does this mapping for you automatically. And you can also go through it. And if there's something you don't like the mapping, you can always change it. You just click on it and you type the type which you want it to be. It's very flexible and customizable. That is in the matching side. So Sally, can you now speak about your deduplication rules? And I'll just be showing the team. I'll just be pressing and taking you to the screen.
Okay, so part of the unification process includes deduplication, and there are a few ways that customer insights can do this. One of these ways is through defining deduplication rules. So what you can do is for each record or each table that you bring into customer insights, you can identify a field that you want to use to identify duplicate records, and you can also let the application know how, or rather which records to keep, whether it should keep records that are the most recent or the least recent, or even records that have the most information and are the most filled. Another way of deduplication is through the primary key. So if you don't want to set your deduplication rules, all you have to do is define a primary key, and with the help of the application's AI, it will remove those duplicate records from your data sources.
Okay, now to the matching rules.
Matching is where that second M in that M3 process, it's where we now are starting to link those separate data sources. And the way that we do this is through matching rules. Now, we can use something like a customer ID if it's available, but usually when we are trying to link these separate data sources, we don't have a common unique ID that's on those tables. So what we can do is create rules that have multiple conditions. So if we click open the full name rule, right at the bottom.
Okay, this one here.
What we'll see is we've set two different tables to link to each other using multiple conditions. So we've set that they should link using the full name field and set that precision to be high instead of exact. This is to account for instances where there might be, in one database, you have the first, middle, and last name, but in another, you only have the first and last name. And this will help it to link those two profiles together, even if they're not exactly the same. But to ensure that we're creating accurate matches, what we do is add conditions like the phone number that we've set to be exact and the date of birth that we've set to be exact. So what matching does is it gives us the flexibility to link customer profiles across those databases where we might not have a unique ID to work with, but it still ensures that we have accurate matches with the conditions.
Okay, perfect. And then unified data view.
This unified data view, or the merging part of the unification process, is where we'll now start to see what that customer 360, that unique and unified profile starts to look like. This is where we'll see all of those different data fields from the different sources that we've pulled, consolidated into one, and this will be what that customer card will eventually look like.
Yes, so both Richard and Sally, there is a comment from Tefese in the chat, and the comment is bankers apply unique ID as mandatory requirement for a single customer in Ethiopia. So if you can just explain how we would do that.
So in the Microsoft framework, we have what we call Azure Synapse Analytics, which is a data warehouse. I can just enter it quickly and just give you an overview of how it will work and how that unique ID will be created. So as the data warehouse is opening, so let's say, for example, we get access to the staging area of the bank, the first thing which we do here is ingesting the data. When we bring in the data into the data warehouse, the next process is the exploration of the data. And in the exploration part, which is our develop part, is where we're going to write scripts. We have different algorithms which we can do where we take different attributes from the customer data that has been put in. We can define the customer dimensions. We can select key attributes. We can choose a code format. We can generate a code to ensure all the uniqueness. And when all that is done in the data warehouse with the scripting, everything is automated and is appended to the table. This table, when it has been appended to the table, Customer Insight takes it into his database and we'll have that unique, we can call that unique bank ID, maybe a customer ID. And when that customer ID is in Customer Insight, we now do an export that goes back into the bank staging area where the bank merges the merged data with the unique customer ID into the core banking, and it will all be updating. And that's where all the customer ID, which has been generated from the data warehouse, will be in Customer Insight, and it will also be on the on-prem system. So that's the technique to do that. It's built here.
Thank you. Shall we just ask Tafese if you are able to speak, whether this answers your question? Yes, please go ahead, Tafese. You may unmute and speak. Tafese, you're on mute. If you just unmute.
Tafese, you're on mute. Let me see if I can unmute him from here.
No.
Okay,
Tafese,
you can send a message into the chat.
Yeah.
If that answers him, yeah.
But if you're able to speak, just speak, Tafese. Okay.
So even before we continue, just for Tafese's sake, when this script has been created to generate that unique bank ID using the customer dimension, and the customer dimension might include the name, the date of birth, the ID number, maybe part of the account number, all those unique attributes, and you create that ID. The beauty of using Azure Synapse Analytics in the data warehouse is when all that has been done, we use what we call orchestration. And what is called orchestration? Orchestration is automating a list of activities. So any new customer that you create in the bank without a unique bank ID that passes through the data warehouse, a unique bank ID is created for the person. Then the data is sent into Customer Insight for Customer Insight to do its magic. And then we export back, which we call a feedback loop, send that data back with the new customer ID to the staging area of the bank, which you can feed into your core banking system. And if the customer already has an existing bank ID, when it comes to the data house, it skips it and it continues using Delta and incremental technology on the data warehouse. So it's for you to do it once and then it's automated. Adenis, please go for it.
Thank you, Richard. Tafese, do you want to speak?
Claire, is there any way we can unmute him? I think maybe
I'm trying to do that. It's saying, oh, I can only mute him. There's nothing I can do here. I'm trying. There's nothing.
Yeah, I think it might be more effective to use the chat functionality if it's a webinar.
Yeah, let him send it in the chat. Then we'll take it from there.
Okay, Regis, can you prepare to carry on with the last part of the presentation?
Okay.
Hello, Regis.
Hi, Regis.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Richard, Dennis, Sally, for running us through the system quickly. On the next agenda item, we're going to have a little bit of a panel discussion. In a panel discussion, I have two people. I have Nevio, who is from a company called Dan Energy, our partner in Ethiopia. And we have Anesu Pere from Zimbabwe, presenting a company called ZB Financial Holdings, which is a bank and has got a lot of other financial services companies within the country. Anesu and company actually implemented this solution. So in the course of this panel discussion that we're going to have, I'm hoping that he can share some rich insights that I believe would still be applicable to our Ethiopian customers and partners that are on the call today. Okay, so I think my first question, I'll throw it at Anesu. Anesu, would you just run us through some of the main challenges and benefits in implementing a customer identification system for purposes of KYC compliance?
Well, thank you very much. It's Regis for introducing me. I'll introduce myself again. My name is Anesu Wellington Pere, and I'm presenting and speaking to you all from Zimbabwe. And I represent what I call in our space the smiling brand. And I think implementation of customer insights has actually brought more smiles to our customers. Why? Because it has given the intimate knowledge, and the relationship has even grown further, because now we understand our customer, and I'm happy that we made the right choice to be able to implement Dynamic 365. And I'm happy to also report that we are the first one, before I answer your question, that I can see on the screen. So in terms of the challenges of implementing a unique identifier, you know that I remember in our implementation days, Dennis would always tell me that unless there is no clean data, because when people are capturing data, be it on, we use Equation ourselves as our core banking system. You know, you find that when people are capturing the ID numbers, they can actually use any number as long as it's numerical. So you find that the challenge that you have is, if you want to use the ID number, which you know universally in Zimbabwe that it will be unique to you only, you may actually have challenges. So there's a lot of matching of fields that you need to do. You need to be able to match some part of the address. You want to be able to match some part of the mobile number, if there is any that has been captured. So those are some of the challenges there. And in terms of how you can actually then do it, as ZB, what we've done is we have integrated into our national registry, where we can actually do a liveness test. We can quickly, we've got an API connector that goes to our registry, and then at the moment you punch in an ID number, you can actually be able to tell whether this person is actually alive or not. And to smoothen the process, as we were going through our transformation journey, which took us to the implementation of Dynamic 365, we also came up with what we call our MyZB Digital. And MyZB Digital gave us a platform for us to be able to ask everyone who's a part of our ecosystem to actually onboard on that particular platform. And as they were onboarding, we were also cleaning our data, because you then have to use your correct ID number, and that correct ID number then informs whether it's a unique customer or not. And in terms of the benefits, you then can be sure that whatever information that you're parceling out, whatever data that you're parceling out, whatever communication that you're parceling out is going to the right person, and you can actually be able to track, like Dennis was saying, the customer lifetime value for a particular age group. You can also be able to tailor make your offerings. In my introduction, I skipped to say that we are a diversified financial services group. that has got your insurance, your banking, and your investments. So specifically, the bank customers sometimes were not consuming our insurance products. So that actually was beneficial because you could then be able to pick out who is not consuming your insurance products and vice versa. So these are some of the benefits that you get when you have a unique customer identification, and especially when your data is unified and the connectors are doing their work. Thank you very much. I hope this helps someone, and will be very useful. And am I available for further questions and clarification? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anesu. Very great insights from your experience here. Thank you so much. The next question.
Regis,
go ahead, sir.
Maybe I just want to build on what Anesu has said, because I know that in Ethiopia, they're going to issue ID cards, I'm sure. That's the case, isn't it?
Yes, they're in the process of implementing a national ID system.
Yeah.
Rolling out, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to let you know, like Anesu said, it's not a solution, just in terms of unique ID. You still, because you still get mistakes that are made in capturing or whatever. To give you an example, we work in the Nigerian market, where by regulation, every customer in Nigeria has to have what they call a BVN number. That is a number that you obtain from an independent organization within Nigeria, where you submit your fingerprints and biometrics. So they give you one number, and you're supposed to use that number with every bank that you bank with. In theory, it sounds very nice. And myself, when I came across it, I thought, wow, this is fantastic. But in working with one of the biggest banks in Nigeria, we found that BVN, which is supposed to be unique, is actually not unique. And I can tell you, I'm a Zambian, and in Zambia, we have registration cards. We call it national registration card. And I used to think that they were unique, and until I worked with the government of Zambia, who told me that there are duplications as well. So remember, you're trying to get a solution that is foolproof in terms of uniqueness, and you can only achieve it, in my view, by using the power of artificial intelligence that helps you look at every available data and make sure that you unify your customer profile. So that's what the solution does. The national ID is not necessarily the solution. We've seen it before in other markets. Thank you, Regis.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dennis, for those insights. My next question, I'll pass it on to Nebiyu. Start by introducing yourself, and then you can also share with us how financial institutions can leverage those national ID systems or indeed third-party sources to verify and assign unique IDs to customers.
Thank you, Regis. Hi, everyone. My name is Nebiyu Mukra. I am from Dan Energy. I am the Deputy CTO at Dan Energy. So to answer the question asked by Dennis, so currently the regulatory body in Ethiopia has one of the compliances is to have a unique customer ID for all banks. So banks implement unique customer IDs. Some systems, they use their own in-house developed systems. Some use third-party sources to verify and assign unique customer IDs. So by integrating this to the customer onboarding and verification process, now these systems, allows you to practice to reduce fraud and ensure compliance with the Ethiopian's financial inclusion strategy, which aims to broaden access to the financial services and ensure secure and reliable identification. In approaching the financial institutions, now there's a FIDA, or the National ID program, that's currently being implemented in Ethiopia. Now, in Ethiopia, this system, as stated by the National ID, they are one of the areas they will be integrating into will be into banking systems. This is because they will have direct access to the national database. The banks will have direct access to the national database, where financial institution can integrate their systems directly with the national ID databases. This integration also allows you for real-time verification of customer identities using official records, ensuring accuracy and reliability as well on the systems. So there will be APIs developed for the data retrieval as well to develop or utilize existing APIs that allow to secure private data retrievals from the national database systems. The other is there is a third-party data sources that the banks are currently implementing as well. Using this third-party data sources, as well as with the integration of AI, rules can be identified to be defined and identify similar customers, as previously explained. So there is customer ID management as well. Some banks have some issues with customer ID management as well. So once the verification is complete using the source mentioned, unique customer identifier for each customers, which can be used internally across all institutions or products and services for the banks, and as well as database management, could maintain and a secure centralized database for USIs that allow for easy access for and management of customer information across different departments and branches. So using this AI systems, in addition to their third-party systems, will allow them to identify their customers and help them provide products and services overall from the bank as well. There are regulations, compliance. One of the compliance from the National Bank of Ethiopia is, for example, fraudulent or transactions that are suspicious. So this kind of transaction should be flagged and then it's to be done daily. As such, you need a system, AI systems that could quickly identify this type of transactions and inform or report banks and allow them to report back to the regulatory body as well. So as I've said, there is compliance and security measures that could help with this unique identification. So data privacy and regulations also ensure all methods of data collection, storage, and processing comply with local data protection laws and international best practices to protect customer privacy. Regular audits and updates of data integration tools and processes to ensure they are secure and comply with evolving regulation as well. Other is for the customer consent and transparency. Informed consents, always customer consents before accessing their personal data from national IDs or their third-party sources. Transparency with customer regarding with data security and measures and their right regarding their data usage will allow them for this national or unique IDs to allow customers to be or to be transparent to their customers as well. So by adopting this method, banks and financial institutions can effectively leverage the national ID programs that will be implemented within a few months, and or other third-party systems that they're currently implementing, and improve operational efficiency, align with the financial regulations as well. Thank you, Regis.
Regis.
Yes. Oh my God, I was speaking on mute. Apologies.
No problem. Regis, can I just?
Sure.
I just wanted to answer one question that is in the chat, where somebody asked whether or how we can unify accounts in different branches of a bank. So I'm presenting my screen again, and I just want to highlight the core banking system. Can you see my screen? So if a customer has different accounts in different branches of the same bank, obviously they reside in core banking system. And as we've shown here, when we bring all the data, customer data from the core banking system, we'll bring the data for all those different accounts that the customer has. And when we do this process of map, match, and merge, we'll be able then to discover that that customer is one customer with a number of accounts. And what we'll do is create one customer profile which shows the different accounts that the customer has. The accounts are as good as products, simply the different products that the customer has or accounts. They'll be shown under one customer profile. I don't know who, I can't remember who asked the question in the chat, but that's the answer to that.
It was Tilahun Irma.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you so much.
We only have 1 minute before we close. We have a hard stop in 1 minute, but Daniel has got a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Daniel, please ask your question.
If you are able, type it in the chat or in the Q&A section.
Also, try and unmute Daniel. I've tried to enable your mic. If you unmute, I hope you should be able to speak. Otherwise, you can just type it in.
Yeah. Oh,
okay. He did put a question on the question and answer, which I responded to him. He was asking if Customer Insights is a CRM. So you can even elaborate more. Yeah, so I answered him, but you can elaborate more on it.
It's a customer data platform which brings customer data from different systems, including CRM. So it's basically a platform that brings customer data from all customer data sources. I think we've run out of time. Claire might.
It's okay now. You can speak.
If he can speak, let's just try, please. Okay. Daniel, please go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation. We have got a good insight about how customers with having a different accounts can be matched in order to have a unique ID. But in Ethiopia, as you know, the directives which was issued in 2020 and in 2021, at that time, most of the banks have a lot of accounts with different, the customers are the same, but the people are having a number of accounts in different banks. Not only in different banks, within the same bank, a person may have more than 5 or 6 accounts. So one of the big problems that we encountered is identifying the people's accounts and merging them into one SIF. Because when we are not in a position to merge into one SIF, we do have a problem in controlling the cash withdrawal limit, which is issued by National Bank of Ethiopia in a 503 2020. So what I am expecting from your solution is that we have to identify the existing customers using nowadays we are doing manually. The manual work has got its own problem because as you know, people may have a name. The first, the second, and the third name are also all the same. So in order to identify this guy, we have to look for additional KYC. We may have go to its photograph. We may have go to its address, or we may have go to its telephone number. Sometimes people are using different telephone numbers, so we may not be in a position to make them to bring one to OneSIF. As the national ID, which is undergoing, but the national ID will help us for customers that are going to be come to the bank for onboarding, which is going to be implemented after 6 or 5 months. But the main problem that most of the banks in Ethiopia do have is how they are going to map customers having a different accounts at different branches. So is your solution can help us to bring those accounts into OneSIF in order to comply the regulatory requirements. This is
yes.
What I want.
Yes, Daniel. So just to explain to you, that's the core part of what CID does, which is the unification. So maybe just to help you understand how the unification happens, and you gave a very good example. I myself, I have 3 names. I'm Dennis Chisembele Lupambo. I have 4 accounts with my bank. Some of the accounts only reflect my first name and surname. Some of them reflect 3 names. Some of them have my first name, initial, and surname. Using traditional IT systems, it's like you said, very difficult to understand or to realize that that's one person. Now, what artificial intelligence does, it works almost like a human being because you are setting rules. So within the application, you can say the date of birth, nobody changed, the date of birth is always the same for somebody, you agree? So you can say there are certain fields that have to be.
Sorry, as for the date of birth in Ethiopia, because at the time of account opening, some of the peoples may not be in a position to tell their birth date in a correct manner.
No problem.
When they open one account in one branch, they may give them with different date birth. And
yes.
When they move to another branch, they will give another birth date.
No problem.
So the birth date may be in a position to be a unique identifier.
So let me ask you, is the surname going to be the same?
Yes, we do have a problem. For example, a person, first name, second name, and third name may be the same for 10 or 20 people.
Okay, no, not a problem. So what you do, remember, all artificial intelligence is doing what you can do as a person faster. So you actually set rules. It allows you to set rules of matching customers. So you say, like you've just said, date of birth doesn't have to be exact because people can give different dates of birth. The surname must be exact. As an example, the first name, because people have different names, you might say, be tolerant on the first name, and so on and so forth. So you give the application has the ability to allow you to set these rules. Once you've set the rules, it then goes across the entire customer base to find customers that seem to be a match. And they won't have the exact name, the exact date of birth, because you've said so. Daniel, I don't know if that makes sense. So you are telling the application very much like in a conversation saying, this is what I expect to be exact. This cannot be exact. Please find people that seem to be the same person. And the application brings back all the records that are for that customer, and you are able to check if it's accurate or not. So it's rule-based. Richard, maybe you can talk about how we do it more in terms of the actual software, Daniel, if you're interested. But basically, the problem you've asked, Daniel, is the core problem that the application solves.
Yes, and actually, Daniel, if you see, my colleague Claire has put a link in the chat window. I would assume this is a lengthy conversation that you would love to have, and we can answer all the questions. it doesn't go to you alone. It goes to everyone in the webinar. If you would like us to have a further conversation to probably discuss your specific needs in a greater detail, please feel free to jump to the link posted by Claire and let us know. We'll book a slot and we'll be happy to help you.
Yeah, and
I can show you.
Give them customized demos to their problems for them to see how those problems are solved using the power of AI.
Yes,
absolutely.
Stella has a hand up.
Yes, Stella has hand up. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Richard, I was just about to volunteer you to do what you've just offered to do. So for the customers who on the call who are interested in just double clicking on this, you can even come with a sample extract of data that's not in production, that we can actually just show you how the tool would be able to do this map, merge, and what am I missing, Dennis? They're normally three.
Match, map, and merge.
Yes, the 3 M's.
Yes,
So you can see how that can work for you. So this is not a theory conversation. This is a practical thing that we want to do with you. I don't know another partner in this ecosystem that is as passionate as on this particular topic as the Mint team. So please take advantage of it. Put down your raise your hand or fill out the form as you've been guided. They will show you how it works, how it will work for your environment, of course, with privacy and everything captured to ensure that it's valuable for you. Thanks.
Yeah, Daniel, just to give you a quick example, because I'm very passionate about this. Anesu, who talked about the project we did at ZB Financial Holdings. When we started working with ZB Financial Holdings, they told us the estimate of customers was 2.4 million. When we did the map, match, and merge, and Anesu can tell you, it dropped to 800,000. So it was actually the unique number of customers are a third of what they had as a total, as an example. I have had the similar experience with one of the biggest banks in Nigeria, same story. So yeah, as Stella was saying, this is not theory, it works. We can have a call to discuss in detail further.
Absolutely. I also see there was a question asked by Dereje, which was more around us being able to ingest data that is from other formats or systems other than relational databases. Yes, we can do that. There was a response from Richard also, which gave documentation from Microsoft on how this can be done. Please feel free. If you, I just mentioned it in case others are not reading the chat window and they may have the same question. But again, it goes back to what Stella emphasized. We are more than happy to help. If you're interested in us having a deeper conversation, please jump onto the link posted by Claire, and we will be happy to have a session with you and dive deeper into this conversation. Other than that, Dennis, may I hand back to you so that you just wrap it up for us?
Yeah, in summary, quite frankly, we came to Ethiopia the last part of March with Regis, and in discussions with one of the biggest banks in Ethiopia, we came across this regulation, and we were very excited because it's the solution Microsoft has is an exact match to the problem. So what we're presenting is, I mean, you have a problem, we have the solution, as simple as that. And the Microsoft platform is so flexible and extensive that it can help you manipulate data, use artificial intelligence. They are the leaders in the market to address any scenario. So, this is the place you should come to solve your problem. That's my closing message. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you to everyone who has joined us on this call. It was a pleasure having a chat with you, and definitely also great questions were asked, giving us further insights into the market. From the Mint and the Microsoft side, would like to thank you and say we are here to work with you. We are here to partner for the long haul. Please do get in touch via the forum, and we'll drive this conversation forward. Our investment and interest is in seeing you guys succeed with all these fast changes that are happening in the industry. You have the domain knowledge, we have the product knowledge, we have the knowledge and experience from across the continent that we believe you can leverage to drive further success for your various organizations. Thank you.